Hi everyone. So today I got some kind of cruddy clothes on, right? Because I don't want to get them stained up or anything else because I'm making homemade soap. So this soap, I'm not going to worry about if it doesn't turn out, but usually it does. If it doesn't, I'm going to use it for my laundry soap. I'm going to use it for my dishwasher soap. So you're going to start, we'll do a couple different things. I'll show you a couple different ways to do this. But the first is you need to have your filtered water, right? So you can use sink water, of course, but filtered water is probably going to be a little bit better. I also use a mask. I just use my mask that I got from when we had COVID going around. I just use those because they're washable. And then I wear a pair of glasses too, so if the chemicals splash up on my eyes, I don't want that, okay? And I put my hair up because, of course, you're using real lye, right? That clogs, it unclogs the drains, and I don't want this eating my hair. A lot of people get really scared about making lye soap because of this. But if you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, right, and you don't have a bunch of people running around, now today everybody's gone doing their own thing, so that, okay, this is a good day to make soap. So, and it's cloudy out, and it's like 7 above outside, and I don't want to be out there. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get 1.5 cups of water. And if you are not a person that, it's like, oh, that's good enough, this really needs to be precise, because if you do not have it precise, then it doesn't turn out. So I put it in a liquid jar, a Pyrex, and then I'm going to get to eye level because I want to make sure. So you're going to do your squat, right? You're going to get down there, look, yep, it's at 1.5 liquid cups. So you're always going to want to use a plastic bowl. Do not use metal bowl. It reacts, the lye reacts with the, in the process of making the soap, and it won't probably turn out. So always use either plastic, wooden, something, we all have, these junk ones we can just get rid of if you don't want. Now, you have to let your lye and your water has to be the same temperature. This is going to heat up, right? So you're going to take your 1.5 cups, and I'll put the recipe online too. And this isn't a scientific blah, blah, blah kind of a recipe. It is a recipe, just a home recipe, okay? So you're going to use your 1.5 cups of water and 1/2 cup of lye. Now this is the one that I like using. It's 99% pure. So that is what I like to do. Also, make sure you have some gloves to put on, right? So when it's this time of year, I make a lot of soaps because I'm not outside as much doing our exploring. So, and we had different things going on this year, so we are not in our RV. So we're gonna do this. So here comes my mask. Here comes my little glasses and my gloves. So, again, I use a lot, I talk about this a lot, but I use a lot of like these chopsticks that you can get at the store, like at the grocery store, right? So you want to make sure that you have an exact amount. Oh, and look, I don't. And just remember, always put your eye protection on when you're working with this lye. You're always going to put your lye to your water. Don't ever put the lye in and then splash the water in, okay? Because then it could end up splashing. So you got your 1.5 cups. You've looked at that. You got your 1/2 cup here, and you're going to add this. And it's kind of a slow process, and you don't want to just dump it in, okay? Don't just dump it in. Now what happens is it starts sticking to the bottom, and it happens every time. And that is okay. And then this stir stick, this chopstick, you're never going to use for anything else except for soap. You could throw it away if you want. They're, like I said, they're cheap and inexpensive. and I can hear, and it gets stinky, and you can smell the, even with the mask on, I can smell the fumes. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, so it's going to go onto a cloth that is just a raggedy old cloth that I don't care about. Okay, that part is done. You're going to let that sit there. I have an instant thermometer and I'm going to see what the temperature is. 164, 165, so it has a way to go. We want to be between about 120, 119, 120 is where you want to be, okay? So while that's sitting there and doing its thing, I'm now going to work with the oil because this just has to sit here and do its thing. So I'm going to reuse my gloves, all that good stuff. So we need 1 1/3 cup of oils. And you're going to want different kinds of oil as well. You're not going to just want one type of oil. You can if it's olive oil, because olive oil is a real hard oil. It hardens. Shea butter, and I love shea butter. Now I have to tell you a funny story about this. About this shea butter. Okay, see this shea butter? When you scoop it out, kind of looks like, I don't know, mashed potatoes. I'm not kidding you. So, let me show you. So I'm in the kitchen, and when I say, yeah, you should try to like get everything done when there's nobody here, because when there's other people in your space, when you're trying to do things, it kind of gets kind of unwieldy. So anyway, I'm over here and I am working on my soap, and my husband walks in the door. He's like, hey. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And I wasn't paying attention to what he was doing. And he grabs a plate, and he had gone into the refrigerator, and then I don't know if he knew what I was doing. I don't know. Anyway, he scooped up a bunch of shea butter. It's just like putting this mashed potatoes on his plate, and he takes a bite of it. He's like, God, this tastes like crap. This tastes awful. And I looked at him and I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then he tells me, I say, those aren't mashed potatoes. But those aren't. That you're eating shea butter. So anyway, he didn't think that was very funny. So anyway, we're going to get all of our stuff together. We're going to figure out, how this all blends together. This has to sit, so I'm going to put my oils in here. Those are going to sit. I'm going to melt them, and both these have to be at the same temperature, about 119 to 120. So once that is done, we'll go from there. Hi everyone, I'm back. This sat for about a half an hour, and I have my little, at 120, so it's perfect. 121, that's close, that's pretty close. By the time I get these two going, they'll be at the right one. I also want to make a note here. I put the lid back onto my shea butter so my husband doesn't think it's mashed potatoes. Anyway, and then we are going to be using cedarwood essential oil and fireplace embers. These two together smell really super good. So on goes the glasses, the mask, and my gloves. Now what you're gonna want to do first when you start this is have a little box like this. This is where your soap, your liquid's gonna go into after it's all done. So before you start this process, you want to get yourself a stick blender. I think I got this one at Target, maybe. They used to be super expensive when they first came out, and now you can literally, get them for just, 20 bucks or so. So, give it a little bit of a stir here. Okay, they're both at 120. For the first, this is the process that takes so long that people get really kind of like anxious about, right? You want to do this until trace, and trace it's going to look like pudding, okay? Like pudding. That's the consistency that you want. But for the first 5 minutes, you're going to want to have just a stir stick and not the big stick. I'm just going to slowly add this in. You always want to add your, now I'm using a rubber one, just so it's not going to splash. And you're always going to want to add your lye to your oil. Okay, so this was in a glass container going into a plastic container. So this is the part that is slow. You need to continue stirring for 5 minutes. Because you want to make sure that you're not forcing your oils and your lye together. You want them to really combine gracefully, naturally. And this is just a process that it just takes a long time, that's all. And I have a little space that I put over here, away from, in a sunny location, because you want to keep your oil and your new soap warm for a while. So this is in here, you'll feel the sides and the top. And once it's cold, the process is done then, and then you'll flip it out and cut your bars. So you just stir and stir and stir. And like I said, you're going to get your process down to a thing called trace. And when it's traced, when you're at that process, it's going to look, see how runny this is? That's way too runny. You are going to want, it to look and feel the consistency of pudding. And once it does, then it's ready to go in the box. One mistake a lot of people make is they force it really, really quick, and then they will start adding their essential oils or their fragrances to this, and then then the process starts all over, because you have to get this in here, right? And you can't just dump it in and dump it in here. You have to put your essential oils or your fragrance into your soap, into your mixture. Then stir and stir and stir some more. And then once it traces again, so it has 2 times to trace, once it traces again, and it's back to that pudding consistency, then you can put it back in here. about 5 minutes, and it's nowhere near being done, and that's okay. So as you can see, it's dripping pretty good. So it's almost to trace. One thing I want you to do and to remember is that as you make this, you know, turn the blender off and then stir, because it'll start getting thinner and thinner as you do this. So I'm just going to tap it a little bit here. I'm going to stick my stick blender over there, and now I'm going to start adding, this is called Fireplace Ember, and smells really, really good. And then this one is the cedar wood. So little tricks and tips that I can have for you is that a lot of times when people do their oils, right, and they're letting their soap cure. Now I'm just hand stirring this in. That does smell really good. And they notice that their scent starts going away. I use real thin wax paper and wrap each little individual bar in the wax paper, and that way it holds your scent a little bit after it's all cured and ready, you know, you're ready to do other things with it. And I'm always really generous with my fragrance. And the reason why is because if you are not, it's not going to have a really good scent, because it'll just fade as it just evaporates out of there. So now see, I'm not at the consistency of a pudding yet, but this turned out to be a beautiful, this is turning out very beautiful. I think one of the most frustrating things about making soap is, you know, you're scared, oh my gosh, you've worked this hard to make this product and then it fails, right? Well, not really. Because if you look at it as, if it fails, I'll just use it for dishwasher soap, or I'll just use it for, you know, if it doesn't turn out real pretty or whatnot, you can use it for other things. Now I use Nature's Oil. It's a brand that I like. So I use a lot of their stuff, their products. Now you're gonna, what I'm going to do, what I usually do here is I take my stir stick, and you know my lye thing, I just stick all my stuff in here. That way it's not getting on my cupboard, it's not getting on anything that I don't want it to, right? So now I have and you're going to want to put plastic wrap over the top, and you're going to want to have some old towels that you don't want. Now look here, see, still a little bit runny. and that's okay. So the beginning and the end is always going to be done by hand. The middle is just getting the two to bind together. And it is and if you want, you can just make some little swirls in here. You can actually put some color in here, and we're not going to do that to this bar. You could put herbs on top too. That's always a fun little look. But today, it's just a basic bar. I'm going to take my gloves off. Those will go in. And now, I'm going to keep this bottom on. And here's just this raggedy old cloth. Now, if you're going to use some so. Now, I put a magic, I write on here. And the date. So I put, shh, soap is sleeping, and the date. So that way everybody knows there's soap in here, not to move it around, not to do anything with it, right? So, and this is gonna go over by my windowsill where hopefully the sun comes through, and it gets, and it has a little blanket over there as well. I'll just put that on top, and we'll, when I come back in a couple days, I'll be touching the sides to make sure that it's cool. Once it's cool, then I know it's ready to cut.